Trump was the vaccine America needed. He exposed the deep state and fought back against the woke maniacs destroying everything Americans revered. They attacked George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They took over the NFL, the FBI, and the NBA. Trump stood alone against the Leviathan longing to destroy the United States from within. A.J. Rice, author and president of Publius PR, takes on this Leviathan in his new book, The Woking Dead: How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. He understood why America needed Trump even before it was in vogue. Rice is the ultimate DC media insider who has produced or promoted Laura Ingraham, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Alan Dershowitz, Peter Navarro, Victor Davis Hanson, and many more. Many of Trump's closest advisors have sought out A.J. Rice's media advice. Rice has fought behind the scenes for years in ways you saw and heard but never understood until now. Hilarious, biting, hard-hitting. Available on Amazon.com. Stop what you're doing right now and pick up a copy of The Woking Dead.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition at theepochtimes.com and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. Read the difference on all your devices. We'd love to have you on board.
Here with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand up and say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice job, everyone. Now get out there and explore, discover, and create. Broadcast Cal out.
Good morning and welcome to the Friday live edition right here at the Kevin Allen Show. We've been on the road for weeks, seems like months, but we haven't had really a regular show in a little bit, but we're so happy today. We got some great guests. The lineup is not going to disappoint today. And right out of the box, appropriately, coming out of the box, almost like a vampire who leaves each evening to go out and feast upon the average everyday people, our good friend Norm Pattis, the little guy in the corner. What's going on, Norm?
You hurt both my feelings. Good to see you. Yeah, I've been on the road for a while too. I've been down in DC for the last another month or so, trying one of the January 6th insurrection cases.
Yeah, you know, it's you listen, we're following the case. I talked to you just the other day, and of course, you know, talking with Norm Pattis here, you see right here in the corner, I have Mr. Biggs, and you are down there representing Mr. Biggs in this trial and J6 hearings. Of course, you're not only down there doing that. We also saw some news trending about you losing your right to practice law. There's an appeal in Connecticut. Talk a little bit about that, Norm, if you would, before we talk about J6 and what you're doing down there.
Yeah, so, a Connecticut trial judge, the judge who presided over the Alex Jones, suspended me from the practice of law for 6 months because my office shared medical records of the plaintiffs who were working on this case and related cases. In our perspective, it's a ridiculous ruling, and we intend to take the appeal. To put stick on our motion for a stay, so it immediately went into effect. So for about 6 days, I was free at last. Thank God Almighty, I was free at last. But we sought an emergency stay of that order. The court granted it. They also then issued an order for her to articulate why she wrote that she thinks I'm a danger to the public, which is, from my perspective, out of her freaking mind. And, if she had asked whether I was in contempt of her rulings, well, the answer is handled the Jones case. We filed the notice of appeal, and I'm pretty confident we'll overturn it. That was proceedings that I'd ever seen. And we'd filed motions to disqualify. We challenged her rule court. We even tried to get the United States Supreme Court involved, all prior to trial. And those pleas with reflections of my attitude toward the judge. But as Ralph Waldo Emerson, the king, you best kill him. And I shot at the queen and lost, and so she banged me on the head with it. We have filed what's called a writ of error in the Connecticut appellate courts, and we're going to seek to get her reversed. That my emergency stay will be vacated, and that I will be set free to do something other. I'm hoping not. I enjoy the practice of law, but there are plenty of other things I enjoy.
Well, the one thing we know you won't, Norm, the one thing we know you won't be is a fashion advisor with that yellow shirt on today. I just don't even know what you're thinking down there.
It's green, and okay. The fact that you're colorblind, I suppose, is all right. Yeah, but,
I'm just trying to change the subject, buddy.
Yeah, no, I will never be a fashion icon. I was trying to do the lumberjack look with the beard and the check shirt, and
you should
be the fashion icon you are.
Well, you're from Vermont now. You're a Vermont guy. You should be up there all crunched up with a lumberjack shirt. Listen, you're down there in D.C., and you and I spoke the other day, and I know there's a lot of things you can't get into with this J6 hearing. Mr. Biggs, of course, we talked about how you're representing him down there. What's going on in this trial? And since there's been a shift and change in Congress, do you have some hope that some real change could come about with these inmates?
No, I don't. I think that the power to pardon or commute a sentence for a federal resident, I did try to elicit testimony at trial the other day that and at one another hammer and tong. Andrew Johnson, shortly after Abraham Lincoln's assassination, gave an amnesty to Confederates, and those who weren't covered by that were given amnesty several years later in the Amnesty Act. The court, of course, held that to be irrelevant, and the witness wasn't permitted to answer. But the fact is that this riot at the Capitol on January 6, 2021 was shocking, certainly. And the government is now prosecuting 1,000 people. It sought increased funding for the Justice Department to prosecute as many as 1,000 more. And I am struck by the criminalization of dissent in this country. It seems to me that, when the Civil War occurred, we were quick once it concluded to move on, shake hands, and try to rebuild the country. We're not so quick now, and I'd like to know why.
So you just brought up something with an appeal based on an older law that sits on the books. And I just want to ask you with regards to that, you and I have discussed that KKK law that was used by the Biden administration, right. Of course, civil versus criminal. Where is the potential? It looks like this whole thing, this science project of testing our democracy is causing us to go back to the beginning. It seems like a lot of these are archaic laws that are sort of being used out there. How dangerous is it right now across America when you look at some of these cases, like that case down in Texas that I referred to with the KKK, the case you're dealing with? Is it scary to think about America in this kind of condition today, Norm?
Well, yes and no. I think it's always been frightening to be an American. I mean, we tried to do something new under the sun. We tried to create a republic dedicated to the proposition that all people are created equal. We tried to create a set of rules and standards that would govern us independently so that we could say we were a community governed by the rule of law. But the rule of law is always administered by men and women. And men and women come in all sizes, shapes, stripes, and moral temperaments. And sometimes it's applied better than others. And American history has always been tense and violent.
I can't think of a time when we weren't screaming at one another and throwing stuff across the room to express our collective outrage. So this period in American history doesn't strike me as any more fraught than others. If you look at the treatment of dissent during the First World War and the use of the Espionage Act, things were far more frightening. There were bombings, there were assassination attempts. If you were to look at what happened in the 1960s with Students for a Democratic Society, the New Left, the Black Panther movement, things were far more violent. As I grew up in the 70s, there were assassinations and assassination attempts. Robert Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. What makes this moment so fraught is, you don't have to do anything to be a criminal. All you have to do is think it. And so to the degree that in our time, we're going to embrace a woke culture to impress us some sort of vacuous standard of morality on everyone, that scares me. But I don't think it's any worse than any other time in American history. We're still a diverse people struggling to become one. What's interesting, Kevin, is I've had some time on my hands in the intermissions between trial here, and I toured the Capitol for the first time at 67 years old. And they show a film at the beginning of the tour. It's called E Pluribus Unum, out of one many. And they say, Congress is where we have come throughout the decades, throughout the generations, to try to become one people. We're still doing it. And so it's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be an American. But I would say that being terrified is part of the American condition, because the mystery that makes up community, there's never really any answer to it. It has to be made and remade every generation. And now our challenge is to remake what we can out of the mess we've inherited so that we can turn it over to our children and they can continue the struggle. It never ends.
Norm Pattis in D.C., and you'll be down there for how long for this J6 trial with Mr. Biggs?
I've been humming, "I'll be home for Easter" in the courtroom, okay. And nobody's disagreeing. So certainly for February, probably into March at the rate things are going.
Do you love these moments of being on the big stage? I mean, this is the big deal.
That's why I'm a trial lawyer. I mean, when I think I've told you this story before. When I was a kid playing Little League Baseball, they'd put me in the game just so that my mother wouldn't bitch about spending money for nothing. And I'd sit in right field for an inning or two, strike out when I got a bat, and pray to God nobody hit the ball my way because I was afraid I'd screw it up. As a lawyer, I want to be on the big stage. I am confident that if you're in trouble, I'm the best hands for you to be in. There's no question in my mind about that.
I watched you down in Alex Jones' trial, and I've seen you before, but there's a certain pep to your step when you're in that trial room. And you have a certain, you take that, and I'm just going to throw this out here. My observation, the one day that I got to watch you in the Alex Jones trial, that judge, I think she was either really intimidated or really sexually attracted to you, one way or the other. You had her attention for sure. Is that a skill that you learn over time, or did you have that right from the beginning, Norm?
With respect to that, Judge, I can't comment on her fascination with me. I do know that the character of the dispute she and I are having now makes it look like jilted lovers. We were never if there was any on her behalf, it was unrequited.
Maybe I should set up a coffee meeting. The great beer negotiations like Obama did. I'll bring you two together and we'll have. No,
I feel bad for that judge. I mean, she tried to do justice in that case. I think the case was beyond her. She made a mess of it, and now she's trying to bury her tracks. Okay, that's what she's got the gavel she's entitled to. Thank God for appellate courts. I'll be fine. But I don't know. Who was it? Robert Burns that once said, "Oh, would some gift the gifty give us to see ourselves as others see us." You have seen me in court. I haven't seen me in court. All I can tell. So you formed your own impressions. I don't. I just love the fight. I love cross-examining people. I love arguing the law. It's one of the best things in life.
Well, you have an amazing talent at it. If you didn't know, Norm Pattis, of course, the famed attorney from Connecticut, making noise across the world, and of course now in D.C. for the J6 hearings. Norm, I'll talk to you. I definitely want to get down to D.C. and do some FaceTime with you. And
yeah, come on down. I mean, the trial's wild. You'll enjoy it. Bye. And we'll go to dinner.
Thank you.
Right?
You got it. Thank you, Norm Pattis. There you go, chiming in right here on the Kevin Allen Show. When we get back, we're going to get ready for this next guest. But let me bring in my producer, who we haven't talked to in a while here live. Of course, we're on the road a couple times. I popped in, but let's see if Mark is ready. You ready, Mark? You got your makeup on? And of course, talking about our guy, Mark Vesco. Mark, you put Kevin Allen there. You got to put Mark. You're the producer.
I know. I don't know what happened. We're having some technical issues here.
I don't know. I mean, I want people to know who you are, because you are not just a handsome face on this team. You're the backbone right now. People have to understand you're organizing all these great. So we have an interview coming up today that you worked hard on. Let's talk about it before the interview comes up.
Yeah, I'm actually waiting for Chad to come on any second. I know there was some glitch in travel, but we're trying to work on it. We have a great interview with a great patriot, but even more than a patriot, a humanitarian. This is with Chad Robichaud, the Force Recon Marine, that him and his buddies set up Save Our Allies, and they rescued their interpreter from the Taliban after Joe Biden's debacle withdrawal from Afghanistan. And they rescued him and his team, approximately 17,000 people from the Taliban.
Amazing. And you think about what we see here. Of course, this is the book here, Chad, who will be coming on, Robichaud, and with David Thomas, I believe, is his author. And, you know, one of the things that's going to be unique about this is, you know, this is kind of fresh, hot news. Chad sharing his story, but he's not done, right? We're going to find out more about. He's still out there organizing. The work over there isn't done, is the question.
Yes, he's still working, organizing. He's also putting a lot of efforts into a nonprofit that he has, the Mighty Oaks Foundation, which we'll get into that later when Chad comes on.
Awesome. All right, listen, we're going to go to a quick commercial. We'll wait for Chad to get in the back room, get them all geared up. Of course, we have Raven Harrison on later. Great update right there from, I thought, Norm Pattis kind of laid it out for us with what's going on with the J6 hearings. Of course, you know, when you talk to Norm, it's interesting because you can't get the trial information. Obviously, right now with Joe Biggs, this trial, this taking place down in D.C. is, you know, the trial of a century, I think, in some ways, because it really tests the efforts of the legal system in partnership with the with the branches of government. You know, how politicized can this trial be? And it's obvious, right? I mean, we see what's going on. Of course, I have a picture here of Joe Biggs, the man on trial who's being called the mastermind behind January 6th. Of course, we'll see what happens. And if you don't know, mentioned the other day through a tweet, at least, I was informed, Norm Pattis actually requested the court subpoena Donald Trump. That's right. Norm Pattis wants to subpoena Donald Trump to come to D.C. to the J6 hearings in regards to Joe Biggs. And there's some reasons why I couldn't get into it with Norm today, but I'm hoping as the trial progresses and more of this news gets out there, Norm will be opening up and we'll hopefully schedule something. Maybe we'll get Mark and I to go down there with a camera guy and do some live interviews in D.C. I think that'd be a fun field trip for us here on the Kevin Allen Show. Of course, Joe Biggs has been painted again as the leader, the mastermind. And this is going to be this is kind of the trial, I think, of the century when it comes to thinking about how this J6 hearing these trials have really, I think one side of this argument, the prosecution side, the congressional investigators, they all made it so political that it's hard to get to the truth. And now that these videos from Elon and some others that are being released, Mark, we got to get those videos up here because there's videos of, prior to the insurrection, they call it, that took place that just really don't match the same things that Shifty Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the rest of the clowns were giving us, from their perspective. But, it doesn't surprise me. Does it surprise you that this is how it is in the real world? And we know that when you get into the DC politics, the swamp, well, it's thick with lies and mischievous moves, people that are trying to take advantage of things for obviously political gain. Norm Pattis, update from him was great. We'll continue on with the show here on Friday. It is the Friday Live edition. Back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show.
Trump was the vaccine America needed. He exposed the deep state and fought back against the woke maniacs destroying everything Americans revered. They attacked George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They took over the NFL, the FBI, and the NBA. Trump stood alone against the Leviathan longing to destroy the United States from within. A.J. Rice, author and president of Publius PR, takes on this Leviathan in his new book, The Woking Dead: How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. He understood why America needed Trump even before it was in vogue. Rice is is the ultimate DC media insider who has produced or promoted Laura Ingraham, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Alan Dershowitz, Peter Navarro, Victor Davis Hanson, and many more. Many of Trump's closest advisors have sought out A.J. Rice's media advice. Rice has fought behind the scenes for years in ways you saw and heard but never understood until now. Hilarious, biting, hard-hitting. Available on Amazon.com. Stop what you're doing right now and pick up a copy of The Woking Dead.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition at theepochtimes.com and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. Read the difference on all your devices. We'd love to have you on board.
Hey guys, check out all these promo codes right here. You can check them out. All these affiliate partners right here. Some past sponsors, some just current affiliate partners that we have. Use the promo code Kevin Allen. It's all one word. Go over to Patriot Cigar Company. Of course, you'll get a discount on all your purchases just by using Kevin Allen. One word. Pour the finest. Same deal. Going over to Greenleaf Farms, Law Enforcement Today. You get at least... what do you get? 2 months off free, I think, on a purchase with our promo code. And, of course, Josh's Worldwide, been there from the beginning. Appreciate all they've done up to the beginning of this year. They've been right there with us. Go and give them a call today. Use the promo code Kevin Allen. But, we talk about sponsors. There's one solid sponsor we got right here on this show that's been hanging. You know why he's hanging in with us? He's got 2 guns loaded. Who doesn't like guns? I got to tell you, I was out at SHOT Show. Many of you know that I was doing some updates last week. We're at SHOT Show, and we were doing the SHOT Show event. We're supposed to hook up with these folks that are out there. Our good friends over at Joey Guns LLC. Just opened up now. K&H Equipment, guys. If you know where K&H Equipment is, you'll know exactly where Joey Guns. If you remember where we had the event where our good friend, and I don't care who's saying what about it right now, I'm still a big fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm not going to run away from Marjorie Taylor Greene. I look forward to having that conversation with her. But she was over to K&H, that's right, with the Quinnebog Citizens Alliance Group. We held that event there about 1.5 years ago or 2 years ago, and Joey Guns LLC came on as a sponsor, and I'm proud to have him as a sponsor. They were out at SHOT Show. Joe, I'm sorry, you and Jen and I didn't get to hook up out there. It was a busy day, and I'm sure we'll get you guys on the phone. I'm going to try to get a live show from Joey Guns next week right over there at the store that just opened up on Route 12 in Plainfield, Connecticut, folks. Look them up, Joey Guns LLC. You can find them online. You can go and shop online, I've been told. Check it all out. Let them know the Kevin Allen Show sent you. Back in a moment right here on the Kevin Allen Show as we continue on the Friday live edition.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition at theepochtimes.com and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. Read the difference on all your devices. We'd love to have you on board.
And welcome back to the live edition here on the Kevin Allen Show. And we're waiting for our next guest, which we'll get into the box here really soon. Mark's working on that. Of course, the book is Saving Azza, and it's Chad Robichaud. Of course, his journey to go back to Afghanistan and make an effort with his team to go and save those people they worked with in Afghanistan. Unlike the president at the time, Joe Biden, who actually made an attempt to abandon, to leave these people behind. We are not going to hear that same story from Chad. Chad's going to share why he was so motivated to go over there and organize this, where he's saving lives. And he's saving lives, folks. This is what's so interested in this conversation is because he was saving the lives of people that actually were helping save the lives of our soldiers, our men and women who are serving our country in somewhat of a confused state of affairs over there in Afghanistan. But nonetheless, they were over there doing their thing, which we have to commend. So we'll be interested to have that conversation when Chad comes into the room. We'll get him on the show. But, one of the things we're watching across this country is the new Congress. I talked a little bit about that with Norm Pattis this morning and asking Norm, what he thinks about, what is the next move, right, of Congress. And I wasn't really getting into it because I don't think that's Norm's wheelhouse, but I'm watching what Matt Gaetz is doing. What Matt Gaetz is doing in D.C. And, you guys can – I don't know which way you want to look at it. There's a lot of us out here that really want to argue this case and say that Matt Gaetz is like a spoiled little child. And, that he stood his ground against Kevin McCarthy and the Interior. And by the way, every family has fights. Every family, every team. There's not a love affair for everyone that participates in the same team all the time. So this is normal. It just played out. Well, it played out in the public eye. And I think a lot of us also are confused because if you remember, not just that long ago, less than 2 years ago, when Nancy Pelosi was given the gavel again, there was some question whether or not the progressives, right, Mark? I mean, look, you can look that up. During Nancy's last term that she was nominated by her caucus to be and then voted on by the House floor to be the majority leader, she got there with some struggles. But yet the corporate media world, they made a bigger deal, which it was a big deal. I don't want to discount what the deal was. But all this is incredibly obvious that the energy behind what's going on right now in the Congress and some of the bills that we're seeing move forward are really, really establishing some of those clarity points that we all as Americans should be wanting, right? I mean, I was asked yesterday on my trips with my driver. The driver was asking me what I thought about what was the biggest thing that this Congress could do. And the first thing they're doing, which I commend, is Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and the rest of and Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy has set an agenda that has given Matt and the rest of the team the obvious opportunity to go after and expose some of these corruptions that have been taking place in Washington, D.C. We're going to really enjoy watching as we see one of my favorite moves. I don't know about you all, but let's remember back when I talk about that last 2 years ago when Nancy Pelosi barely got in to be the speaker. And of course, she initiated the removing of Marjorie Taylor Greene from any of her, committees. So folks, think about what happened here in this country. This didn't start with the Republicans. Some of you are going to be so mistaken because you're probably not as astute as others when it comes to, where do we begin this nonsense? Where did this madness begin? Well, this madness began when Nancy Pelosi made her decision to rattle that gavel and to take the committee appointments away from Nancy. Vote was all right. So you know what? I just got to thank you, Mark. Put that right into comments too. Let everyone know Nancy's vote was this close. It was 216 to 209. Listen, Nancy didn't win by a lot. And you could say, oh, it was the Republicans versus this. She had her own Democratic Party. They did come together, but if you remember during that time that I speak of when the former speaker, Nancy Pelosi, was appointed by her caucus, she was actually battling the ultra extreme progressives, Ileana and AOC and the rest of them in her own party. So there's no surprise here what's taking place. But, you can't think about this without realizing the magic that has happened here. I mean, when you look at what Adam Schiff is now scrambling around, and by the way, I think Adam Schiff might be one of the most dangerous criminals in Washington, D.C. And I say that with confidence because Adam Schiff has an uncanny ability to speak in a confident way, factless and unfortunately given power by the people that are in charge, like the White House currently, or the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. And let's put Adam Schiff on this committee. Let his legal mind work. Well, Adam Schiff is an author. He makes most of his money off of writing books about his relationship with Donald Trump. Think about how this scumbag in Washington, D.C. has pretended to really be fighting for the American people when he's making millions and millions of dollars. Adam Schiff removed now from his committee, which I think is a big move and bold. And Kevin McCarthy, kudos to you. I don't know how you all worked it out. I'm sure we'll get the footnotes of that relationship. But at this point, clearly some things are starting off good. But what's that mean for America? Well, it means we'll expose a lot of things. We'll get a lot of exposure over the next few years, or at least 2 years, and at least going into the general election, which is going to be taking place, the presidential election in 2024. We'll talk about that after. But when you look at some of the exposing things that are going on, Congress is going to expose them. The Senate's so close right now with the Republicans and Democrats. It's going to, who knows what can happen. Are we going to count on Joe Manchin? Of course, remember, Joe Manchin is the same Democrat whose daughter made millions and millions of dollars. Mark, did we look that up yet about the EpiPen and Joe Manchin? Please, because you know what? We give a lot of credit to Joe Manchin, and I do want to give credit to him when he makes the right decisions. But here's another example of a Washington insider whose daughter was caught as the CEO of an EpiPen company not that many years ago and gouging the prices of EpiPens. I'm pretty sure it was Epi. And I don't want to misspeak, so I don't want to, be sued by the corporate media world for falsely moving news forward like they do. If you can just put that in the comments and just put it right here in the private chat so I can comment on that. So Joe Manchin is going to be a key vote in that Senate. But then when you get to the White House, folks, what's going to happen? Do you think Joe's going to sign anything? Joe's not going to sign anything. And I think we have to all come to reality, which is Joe Biden most likely will be facing the 25th Amendment. My predictions in 2023 are real simple. It's not a debate. It's not an argument. It's not to sit here and say that I'm right and you're wrong. It's not for me to claim like I'm some kind of holier than thou, brighter than. But the fact of the matter is, Joe is compromised. Joe is compromised. Joe is compromised not just now by a shift in Congress, but think about what Joe is facing when it comes down to some of the other issues that Joe has been challenged with, which are, quite honestly, Hunter Biden. How can he now save himself, Joe Biden? The Biden team is falling apart. And you have to ask yourself, why now? Why now is it that evidence is being found in his home next to his Corvette in a garage? Been sitting there for years. Somebody put it there, and somebody knew they put it there. Somebody that controls Joe Biden's life, whoever that person is. God forgive them for having that. Mark, imagine having the eyes and ears into a glimpse into that world. It's scary. It is House of Cards, Kevin Spacey 101 here, or 2.0 with Joe Biden. In a lot of ways, I watched that show back in the day. I have so many comparisons to Joe Biden in his world. Of course, I don't think Joe Biden is the sex kitten that Kevin Spacey was playing in that show. But Joe Biden is connected in some really, really corrupt deals. And those things are going to get exposed. I think this is why the congressional shift now that we see in Washington, D.C. is so promising to so many across this country. Aren't you wondering, though, who's going to be next? Like, who do you think could be the replacement? Because listen, I'm going to throw it out there. And Mark, we have to make this bet. I'll be out in Vegas. I think I'm going out to Vegas on the 8th or 9th of February. And I'm going to try a place. I'll go live with it. I want to make the bet on Michelle Obama running for the Democratic ticket. Of course, I'm speaking about the former president's wife, Barack Hussein Obama. His wife, Michelle, I predict is going to be the next candidate for the Democratic presidency of the United States of America in 2024. And I believe she's going to have a credible stand. It's all going to come down to who she picks as a vice president. Of course, Barack will make the right decisions, right? I mean, he's not going to let her down. He's not going to let her make some kind of silly decision and pick the wrong candidate to run with. But they will get rid of Joe Biden before the 2024 election because they have to empower the women. This is my other prediction. Like I'm Nostradamus over here, right? Nostradamus with a beard and sunglasses on, 2023 version. I will predict this, that you're going to see Joe Biden removed from office, 25th Amendment. Mark, I've said it before. I'm going to reiterate it. I want people to hear me first so I get the prediction. I want credit, folks. 2024 is going to be an interesting year. It's going to be the most money spent in any marketing for any election in the history of this country. There will be riots on the streets of this country during the 2023 campaigns into 2024. There will be so much, confusion on which end you're going to be on and what they're trying to do right now. And I believe this truly is the people, the power players like the Barack Hussein Obama and the rest of the people behind the scenes, the Clinton, the Clinton empire, the rest of them that make the decisions, the George Soroses and all the rest of them. And folks on the other side, don't get me wrong. There's some clear flushing of that toilet in the Republican side that we need to attend to in 2024. We will get there. Let's battle together and win America back before we start, dropping those turds down the toilet, as they say, in Washington, D.C. Let's work together going into 2024. But how possible is it for Donald Trump to beat Michelle Obama if this thing gets set up the way I'm predicting? And listen, I want Donald Trump to win. Donald Trump is the guy I think that can actually, because being a non-elected official, because he's never served in office before, because he has spoken about things. And yeah, oftentimes we really don't care for the way people don't care for the way he speaks. I hear why people don't. It doesn't bother me. I 100% am 100% behind this gentleman going back to the White House and 100% cleansing DC of the swamp it is, taking on corporate media again, battling with the news makers, not the news providers. You see, right now in Washington, DC and across this country, the news, the corporate media have been such a supporter of this anarchy coming out of the Democratic, progressive, left extremists of this country that, Schiff doesn't get empowered into his position to go spreading lies without having the empowerment of corporate media. How many times have you seen him on interviews on CBS and Sunday Morning, this and that? This is exactly how we got here in this country. We've allowed the corporate media to get in bed. I guess if you want the good story, you got to get along with them. If you want to, have the people come on your show, you got to get along with them. And so there's been this constant relationship building. And now we've seen what the culmination is. And the culmination, folks, is scary because when corporate media starts to work and carry the water for those policymakers, that's the scary times in America. And we've seen it with our own two eyes. Joe Manchin's daughter, Heather Bresch, was CEO of EpiPen and raised the price by 500%. Folks, so I want you to listen to that one, and I wish I had the ability to pull up some more information. Mark, drop that right in the comments, if you would, please, with a big, bold, let's look at that. Because some will say, well, okay, Kevin, well, you were in office, and what if your kid did this, and what if your kid did that? But you have to remember, Joe Manchin was in a position that held off investigations on price gouging. Joe Manchin has been in that position, and I don't know how he's gotten past it other than maybe the insiders have worked together. I mean, I think him and Lindsey Graham get along really well. I think him and Chuck McConnell get along really well. And, of course, Joe Biden, his former partner in crime, was a senator. So we can't rely on the Senate doing anything that's going to save America because at the end of the day, Joe Manchin, although he might vote in some good ways today, you can't forget about what he's been able to do. And truly, I drove through West Virginia yesterday, and I'm going to tell you, going all the way looped all the way down through, I think we went down to South Carolina first, from South Carolina over to Tennessee to Virginia to West Virginia, and on home from there, Pennsylvania, the whole ride. I saw a lot of depression in these areas. Joe Manchin has been the same guy. I don't know how you fix it, but you look at the same drug problems that face West Virginia have been there forever. He's a Democratic senator from West Virginia. Why are we allowing these same people to go back to office? My prediction is in 2024, folks, you're going to see a major change in the future of this great country. Back in a moment, we'll see who pops on next. We have a little delay on our first guest, but maybe, as I said to Mark, it might have been a time delay. Sometimes our guests don't realize that we're on the East Coast. We're not the Hollywood elites on the West Coast, as many of these organizations run their news live. So we'll see. Mark, see if we can follow up on that. Back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show as we continue on the Friday Live edition.
Trump was the vaccine America needed. He exposed the deep state and fought back against the woke maniacs destroying everything Americans revered. They attacked George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They took over the NFL, the FBI, and the NBA. Trump stood alone against the Leviathan longing to destroy the United States from within. A.J. Rice, author and president of Publius PR, takes on this Leviathan in his new book, The Woking Dead: How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. He understood why America needed Trump even before it was in vogue. Rice is the ultimate DC media insider who has produced or promoted Laura Ingraham, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Alan Dershowitz, Peter Navarro, Victor Davis Hanson, and many more. Many of Trump's closest advisors have sought out A.J. Rice's media advice. Rice has fought behind the scenes for years in ways you saw and heard but never understood until now. Hilarious, biting, hard-hitting. Available on Amazon.com. Stop what you're doing right now and pick up a copy of The Woking Dead.
welcome back right here on the Friday edition. And we're still waiting to confirm. I believe we're probably going to have to reschedule our guest today. A little bit of confusion there on, I think, times and East Coast time. We'll figure it all out. We'll get Chad back on, of course. Looking forward to sharing his story. And I know Mark is working on that. I think we got Joe Visconti, who's going to jump on. We're going to get Joe's update on what's going on. Of course, Joe, if you don't follow Joe, you got to go check him out on Twitter, especially. He's going Twitter crazy. He's tweeting more than the former president does on all kinds of topics. So we'll get an update from Joe. He's always entertaining, and he usually brings facts. He delivers. So looking forward to that as well. You know, one of the interesting things, a lot of issues going on across the country. And one of the things right now trending, and I was just down, I actually drove through Georgia. I was in Georgia too. I forgot to mention that. Drove through a section of Georgia, and Brian Kemp now has declared a state of emergency on Thursday in anticipation of a violent anti-police protest in Atlanta this weekend. So the governor has activated 1,000 National Guard troops down there in Atlanta. And we drove through Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to tell you right now, it is a beautiful city. But I'm just thinking, maybe, guys, if you can look at history, maybe pay attention to what's happening in the past, maybe this is the indicator that we've been waiting for. Because honestly, we've seen it pretty quiet, right? We've seen a fairly quiet last year and a half, even through what I thought was going to be a crazy time during the last election in past November here. You know, with all the craziness that took place, we didn't see violence taking place, but now violence is creeping up. See, they've exhausted all the other stuff. We're gonna continue to talk about, parental rights on this show. We're gonna talk about the fact that there's a progressive movement that wants to over-sexualize our children in the school systems. They want to teach 4 and 5 year olds about choices about transgender choices, whether or not they want to. Where they are at 4 or 5 years old. They want them to think about those things. This is a movement specifically to divide this country. Just like what's going on now. And I'm going to tell you, I think what's happening, what Brian Kemp is dealing with down there in Georgia, the great state of Georgia, of course, where our good friend Marjorie Taylor Greene is, and Sally Grubb is down there. We got to get back on the line with Sally. She was, of course, so helpful during the elections with Herschel Walker and many others down in Georgia being a party chair. But, Atlanta is going to be the beginning, in my opinion, unfortunately, to a trend that's going to take place across this country. See, a lot of times in these situations, these are igniters. And no pun intended on the fact that we're looking at, things are being blown up and burnt down, and the violence has now started down in Atlanta, Georgia. But where's it end? I don't think it ends in Atlanta. I think it's going to continue. We'll see it, there's possibly, the West Coast. I was just out in LA last week, and I'm going to tell you, there was a shooting there just this last Sunday, about a week ago. 72-year-old male goes on a shooting spree. And by the way, I was so angry at the public officials, as they are called, those people that are put into elected positions, who got up to the podium and didn't even talk about victims during that press conference. They talked about all the things they do for gun violence in a state where violence is off the chart because they don't have any tough on crime policies. I don't know where these people think they're going to go. Atlanta, Georgia, this weekend, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp activates 1,000 National Guard troops ahead of anti-cop protests. Now, what are the cops doing in Atlanta to warrant this? Haven't we seen a big turnaround? Now even for the fact out I talk about out in LA during that shooting, everyone at the podium, all these liberal government officials, from the mayor right on out to, unfortunately, even the chiefs of police, or the people handling the running the commissioners of these police departments in LA, they're all progressives. They're all progressives. They get up to, and they were even actually supporting the police. So that's the point I guess I was getting at with that, is just watching what took place out in LA, seeing what's going on here. This is an uptick, folks, and usually in an uptick like this, we're going to see more of these things happening as, unfortunately, we go along. So be vigilant out there. Be careful and be vigilant. And I got to tell you, one of the things that was interesting to me, and I've always been a fan, yet not a fan of him, but of course I'm not really sure. But Jay Leno, this guy's having some bad luck, Mark. Jay Leno not only got burned severely, he just got, after he got back on his feet again, he's got a motorcycle accident. Jay, park all those vehicles. I know he's got a ginormous collection. I know with the collection of motorcycles, you're affiliated with Mark and the cars and all that stuff. Jay Leno, no joke, Fox News reporting that he was involved in a motorcycle accident. Of course, this is crazy. Jay, just get the lark, man. Get the lark and just roll around maybe the retirement home. Time for you to get off two wheels and four, it looks like. Border crisis backlash. The House Republicans send a ultimatum to the Biden administration on the policies that are being obviously exploited now that the Congress has changed. This border crisis is not going to get any better. And folks, when I was down when I was out at SHOT Show, I got a chance to see a friend. I think I posted that. Of course, a friend that comes on this show, Agent Under Fire right here, Victor Avila. Victor, of course, the former ICE agent who, sadly enough, was shot in the face, his partner killed while they were serving as ICE agents doing undercover operations, working with officials here and in Mexico. And the cartel tried to kill Victor. Victor lived. And, I got to say that I've never met Victor personally until last week when I was out at SHOT Show. I got to actually not just, talk to him and give him a hug and just be so fortunate to have him be a part of what we're doing. And you can see Victor on Fox News and Newsmax. He's doing hit pieces but down at the border. And Victor and I did talk about the possibilities of, doing some stuff down at the border. I think it's becoming more and more a reality. We'll definitely be looking forward to announcing anything that comes about with Victor and that partnership down at the southern border. Of course, coming on later on the show, before we end today, Raven Harrison is also somebody we've been talking with about the southern border. And the southern border doesn't go away, folks, because look at your local crime. Look at what's going on in your communities. And, a lot of people want to get confused because they know I'm in the cannabis business across this country. I'm in the legal cannabis CBD business, okay? The drugs that are coming across the border is fentanyl. This is a dangerous time to allow this stuff to come into our country. It's being put into so many products. In fact, we're seeing fentanyl being discovered so many different ways. Officers are having contact with it. People are dying across America, yet the southern border is still wide open. The policymakers in the Biden administration and his complete team have failed. Their tour of the southern border was nothing more than a public press stunt to go down there and clean up the whole area. I've been down to the border. Check out our southern border from 2021 tour. You can check it out. We did it with PFA down there and Sam and his team. And again, that's where we got the cowboy hat, if you remember. That's where the cowboy hat came on the scene with the Kevin Allen show. Great time with those individuals, but sad, really exposure to a reality of this country. This country is facing greater challenges from the southern border every day, but really it didn't seem like this administration cares too much about it. Why? Well, I think it's obvious. If we can cause some more distractions, then obviously we'll just we'll kind of follow the bouncing ball, as they say, right? So here we go, leading into the weekend, some of the things that people are probably going to want to pay attention to. And one of the cases that I find interesting, and Mark, I'll ask you for your assistance here, is the Paul Pelosi attack video to be released. Now, one thing with Nancy is, Nancy runs a tight ship. I mean, I don't know about you, but Nancy's been doing it for a long time. Her dad was a former mayor, I think it was Baltimore or Philadelphia. I forget exactly. So she grew up in the business of this political game. She knew her way around, very savvy. Give her a lot of credit. And Nancy has now put herself in a position. She lost the gavel. Baltimore, thank you very much. Her dad was the mayor of Baltimore. She grew up as the mayor's daughter, and so she's known this routine for a very long time. And this Paul Pelosi case, to me, speaks of some real concerns because it involves now Secret Service agents. Secret Service agents who clearly and obviously are not as concerned with being exposed because they're probably empowered by the speaker, the former speaker, and what she provides as her power platform. But now the truth is going to come out with this video. And what are we going to see on the video? I'm truly interested. I think when we get Joe on in a little bit, Joe will probably jump into it. Some of the obvious things are the attack on the former House Speaker's husband, Paul, will be released. This video is being challenged. It was challenged in court. And they're able to access the footage of the attack of the former House Speaker's Nancy Pelosi's husband after Judge Murphy ruled the district attorney's office must make the material public. Now, why would Nancy Pelosi and her team not want the video to be public? Is there something on this video that should worry us? I mean, she's all about, people's rights. Nancy's all about the community she represents, right? I mean, if it's Kwanzaa, she's putting on the African garb and bending knee, right? I mean, she's all about it. She plays to the camera every time. I mean, she'll put on an outfit, no matter what it is, and stand in front of a podium just to what she thinks in her world is benefit from. But why is the team so worried about what took place? And now the release of this material will include police body cam footage of the attack on 9/11 audio calls and U.S. Capitol Police surveillance video. This is where I'm getting at with the U.S. Capitol Police, guys. Listen, I am a pro-cop all day long guy. I'm never going to give up on the law enforcement men and women. In fact, we will continue to support them, and throwing love out to Atlanta right now with this unclear attack on the law enforcement folks down there that is coming this weekend, and with the quick action of the governor down there. We're going to see this trend across this country. But why is it that the Capitol Police seem to get a pass in all this? Seem to get a pass in all these issues. And one of the things that you're going to have to watch is in the J6 hearings, one of the things that's being exposed, folks, is the videos from January 6th. Just think about it. They have used the attempts to suppress the real truth from us in this country for a long time. And Nancy Pelosi and her Paul Pelosi saga, they attempted to do it. There's a small example. But when you get down to D.C. and you look at what happened with the J6 investigations and what took place in these hearings, how the investigations during the control of Adam Schiff and the rest of the what I would call scum, of D.C., when they were pushing that agenda forward, they didn't care about any facts, didn't care about truth. They just wanted to push an agenda forward. Now videos and evidence will come out, but what's it matter? What's it matter? At the end of the day, is it going to make a difference to anybody? Is it going to change what we believe? Because there's a lot of people out there that will still put their head in the sand, and rather because they hate Orange Man or because they hate this, they'll continue to believe the corporate media narrative, which is factless. And when the facts come out, folks, we're going to be frontline, ready to share. And back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show as we continue. I think Joe Visconti is going to get in the seat here, and we'll continue Raven Harrison later on. And we'll talk about, hopefully Mark will work out when that reschedule for Chad getting on the show before we end today here on the Kevin Allen Show live edition. Of course, the Friday live edition. Back in a moment.
Trump was the vaccine America needed. He exposed the deep state and fought back against the woke maniacs destroying everything Americans revered. They attacked George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They took over the NFL, the FBI, and the NBA. Trump stood alone against the Leviathan longing to destroy the United States from within. A.J. Rice, author and president of Publius PR, takes on this Leviathan in his new book, The Woking Dead: How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. He understood why America needed Trump even before it was in vogue. Rice is the ultimate DC media insider who has produced or promoted Laura Ingraham, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Alan Dershowitz, Peter Navarro, Victor Davis Hanson, and many more. Many of Trump's closest advisors have sought out A.J. Rice's media advice. Rice has fought behind the scenes for years in ways you saw and heard but never understood until now. Hilarious, biting, hard-hitting. Available on Amazon.com. Stop what you're doing right now and pick up a copy of The Woking Dead.
And welcome back right here. We got that nice groovy music in the background. Getting you kind of grooved into the break here. So here we go, and it's Friday. We haven't been on the we've been on the road now for probably 3 or 4 weeks. Been trying to chime in. I got to tell you honestly, just speaking of the road, I got a chance to actually play around with some water buffalo, and I got to tell you, I've never met a more interesting, lovable animal. I want to raise a water buffalo now. I want to take this this whole rip thing to the next level. Maybe put the cowboy hat on. And Mark, we're gonna get some water buffalo up in Connecticut. That's the next thing. We're gonna start a water buffalo ranch. They were great animals, and we were down in Tennessee. And for some of you that might have paid, that might know me personally, some of you that might have watched as we've evolved. I've been in the nutraceutical space of nutraceuticals with regards to CBD. I grew a farm. I have businesses. I've helped start businesses. I've consult businesses. I've created businesses. I've been involved, and we've been traveling around the country working on both the show and doing that, and as well as we'll talk a little bit about the hunting show that is coming along really nicely with the Put Up or Shut Up folks that we've been working with, developing that as well. But one of the things interesting enough is in this world of cannabis and this world, they decriminalize it across this country. 19 states right now have policies, and it looks like at least another 5 to 8 states over the next year will be coming online in cannabis. As soon as you hit the halfway point, it's prohibition model 101. How do we figure it out? And it's going to be interesting to see how America does figure it out, because, this is a cash cow revenue system, and I'm not asking or advocating going for money as much as I know this is a plant that should be in the industry. It should be choices to people rather than drinking alcohol if they can use another source. This is why I'm, big on it. I speak very, very confidently about it. As I travel around the country, though, one of the things I will tell you is I see a very crime-ridden communities that have not been able to, get themselves out of their way. And, right now down in Memphis, Tennessee, 4 of the 5 Memphis police officers charged with killing Tyree Nichols, released from jail after posting bail. Now, these police officers have all been charged. 4 of the 5 former Memphis cops charged with the murder of other crimes of killing 29-year-old Tyree Nichols posted bond and were released from jail early Friday morning today. Desmond Mills and Justin Smith each posted $250,000 bond when they were released. Now, I bring this up because listen to what I'm saying. There's a riot going on in Atlanta, Georgia. Do you see where the news media is shifting? We haven't heard about cops, Mark, and what? Complaints about cops in 6 months, 12 months, a year, maybe 2 years, 18 months. Now, I don't know anything about this case. All I do know is the cops that I'm looking at, they're not white cops. They're not white police officers. Pull this article up if you could, Mark, if you could, please. 4 of the 5 Memphis police officers charged with the killing of Tyree Nichols. Just put that article in there because I want people to see and read this article. This murder that I'm going to look into, it's a shame. I got a beautiful picture of this nice-looking young man, Tyree, clearly a young man who looks great in this suit, shirt, and dressed really nicely. And the Shelby County District Attorney, Steve Mulroy, said during a news conference on Thursday that the officers are responsible for Nichols' death. This is the comments of the Shelby County District Attorney's Office. So, hear me and understand me what I'm trying to say. Look, across this country, we're going to see a very huge uptick. And, of course, and I'm looking forward to the day I meet this gentleman. I will meet him. I'll talk to him face to face. We'll sit down. We'll have a conversation. Ben Crump. Of course, Ben Crump is. How does Ben Crump arrive to every one of these major cases? How is it that Ben Crump is the guy that has to be at the podium in order for these cases? So why is Ben Crump not representing the little girl that got killed in wherever, USA? Why don't you run over to those cases, Ben? I mean, is there enough money there for you to grab? Is this about money or is it about justice? Is it about money or justice? And I don't know the case, the civil rights claims against the officers. I don't know what they are, but it's an interesting move because I believe, Mark can tell me if I'm wrong, I think every officer involved here, and it makes sense. I mean, Memphis is a very, and I think I actually drove. Did I drive through Memphis? Gosh, I almost want to think I did. I think I did. Should have stopped and talked about it on our travels. Memphis, Tennessee. This is going to be an interesting one to watch. So when you pair that up with what I talked about earlier, with what's going on down in Georgia, some of the uptick and the energy against law enforcement, you have to ask yourself, why? Why now? Why are we, in this position where, law enforcement again is, I guess, they're going to be the whipping child, the whipping stick will come out on those folks that are representing us on the streets across America. And that's going to be a sad fact and reality. And believe me, folks, it gets played for political purposes all the time. We'll have to watch how that case carries out as well. Right here in Connecticut, we had some news that was given to us, and I don't know much about the, do some information on the case. I want to talk to Kate Prokop. She's, of course, one of the advocates here for parents' rights in Connecticut. And Mark, if you can pull up Kate's maybe tweet, if you could, and put that in. I got informed when I was on the road that Kate was told that she's been taken off social media. I want to talk to Kate about this because this is a great example of what takes place to Donald Trump, right? They took Donald Trump off of social media. Well, Kate's platform, Parents' Choice here in Connecticut, was deplatformed several times because complaints were filed by the Attorney General, the Governor's office, and I believe then sitting Denise Merrill. I think that was her claims. And Mark, I don't know if you can find news, but you know what? Where's the corporate media news covering that claim that Kate put out there that she's been suppressed by government to give her opinion, to freely speak? She's been suppressed. Social media, of course, is going to, the giants at Facebook. You think they get an email from Tong or from Governor Lamont? They're going to stop the presses and tell them, oh, no, we're going to let Kate keep. No, they took Kate's, they shadow banned the program. We got to get her on the show, Mark. Try to work on that and change your name from Kevin to Mark, because every time I look over there, I'm going to call you Kevin in the back room. You get me confused, bro. Joe Biden knocked for shielding the president from reporters. And so one of the things that you notice here, and this is interesting as we talk some of the news, and I haven't done this in a while, and I enjoy this actually, part of just, Mark, I like this. We just get to talk about the news and all the fun stuff that's going on. Joe Biden is being criticized currently. Of course, a lot of these criticisms are coming from places like, social media. Doug Collins was on a recent interview with the folks over at Fox News. Doug Collins, of course, we had a great interview with Doug last year. We should get, Mark, we got to get Doug back on. Doug Collins, a former congressman, has his own platform of his own that is blowing up and getting noticed quite honestly. One of the true honest speakers I've ever met. I really enjoyed our interview with former Georgia Rep. Doug Collins. And, he's coming on and talking with the folks about how the First Lady is actually, defending Joe Biden. And it's obvious that someone's got to defend him. Folks, I think this is the first real evidence of the turn on the Bidens. Jill herself is fighting now. She's got to throw the elbows to protect Joe when he's out in front of the podium. It's the first of the end of these folks. That's how I look at it. Maybe I'm wrong. And maybe I'm right. Either way you look at it, folks, it's going to be an interesting one, and we will continue to cover the news today. When we come back, hopefully we get, a couple of these guests ready to rock and roll right here on the Kevin Allen Show, which I hope you're enjoying our live Friday edition. Good morning and welcome back here. We gotta work on that cue out here, huh? We gotta get that music down there so we can get our next guest on. This is the Friday Live edition. I'm a little rusty. I've been on the road, but one thing I'm definitely excited about, I have not talked to my good friend Raven Harrison from Texas in a bit. Let's get her right on here with us. Raven, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How's our Connecticut Cowboy?
We're rocking and rolling, traveling the country, trying to fight the battle to win
Amen.
America back. So it's been a bit. You've been busy, so let's get caught up with you first before we get into some of the trending news of the day. What's going on with Raven? I know you're on fire down there.
Raven's busy. We're on the front lines. As always, good morning, Paula, my girl. But we have been in Washington, D.C. We were out there pushing and fighting for some change up there, and it looks like it's headed the right way. We were down in Georgia visiting with some of our Republicans down there. We've been doing the podcast. We've had some incredible guests, including, just recently had 3-star General Paul Funk on the stage to talk about what our military readiness is. And we've been lighting up Fox with the issue of Biden and the classified documents. It's never ending, but, I tell patriots all the time, we are no longer asking to take our country back. Here it is.
There it is. We got to fight for it. And I know you've been fighting since the day I met you. You knew you had the fighting spirit. And of course, Raven is down in Texas. And I was talking earlier, Raven, about the southern border, a lot of the criticisms. What was the reaction from the Texas folks about Joe Biden going down there? This looked like stage event. Your opinion of that tour by the Biden administration?
It was a stage event, and it was outraging and very demoralizing, especially for the people of El Paso. We were there 3 days before when you were knee deep in trash and tent cities and spiking crime. And to see that, after declaring a state of emergency, that they used those funds to clean the streets, empty the detention and the processing centers, and basically whitewash the entire thing. The whole point was to see how bad it is so we could get the emergency and the desperately needed resources and money to where it was needed most. And of course, we did the smoke and mirrors political theater. It was Miracle on the Montana that we saw of just absolutely disgusting. So the people down here who are now once again knee deep in tent cities and trash and crime. And when we were down there, we had, migrants trying to charge us for free public parking. I mean, it was everywhere. It was gross. And they are outraged that that's what he considers his victory lap of, going to the border after 2 years and $20 billion.
How do we fix the border?
We have to enforce the laws. I mean, I feel like you just want to scream when you hear these politicians talking about new legislation, different legislation. Ted Cruz is offering up something to say, that illegals can't vote. They can't vote. It's not should not vote. They cannot vote. It is illegal for non-citizens to vote in this election. But what we need to do is enforce. We need to finish the wall. We need to enforce our immigration laws. We need to deport the criminals that are here immediately. And we need to employ all resources to not only getting, but we got to end that catch and release. We got to reinstitute remain in Mexico. We've got to get the assault on our border off. It is wide open and crime is spiking. I mean, have you been watching these executions? People coming in and just executing Americans, and then heading back.
It is nuts. And of course, down in Texas, we see it slowly seeping into the nation. And
Yes.
you know people across the country as you travel. Are they feeling the effects, in your opinion, of the fentanyl and some of these criminal acts as well? Are you hearing that from the people you talk to?
Yes, and we are seeing it. And that's part of the reason that you and I and people like us, Kevin, get on the road, is so that we can actually assess firsthand and we can sound the alarm and get the resources to it. So that's what we're doing, guys. Justice dies in the dark. So we've been running around with a big flashlight trying to get this on. But now every city is a border city. You're talking about 9 million people, and it is upwards of 14,000 a day that they've had in El Paso. If you look at that, that's the population of certain cities, that are coming in every day, that are needing healthcare, schools, using our roads, infrastructure, supply chain issues. Everything's being exacerbated by having this volume of people just coming in, and they're not coming in going straight to legalize. They're coming in for the freebies. They're coming in for the money we're handing out. And when we're done handing out that money, we start handing it out to Ukraine and foreign entities. You know, we spent in this omnistrosity bill that Pelosi passed, you know, before she gave up the gavel with her vodka soaked fingernails. Before we had that, you know, $1.7 trillion that we don't have, unsustainable spending, but 1.6 billion allocated for the border, but not to secure it. The wording specifically says that that money cannot be used to secure our border, only to process more people, who Joe Biden is now saying, okay, we're going to let 30,000 additional come in without securing the border. We'll just let 30,000 more in through ports of entry to encourage legal immigration. But we haven't dealt with the problem we have. What about the 9 million, you know, freeloaders that we got, you know, since he's been in office? We have to deal with that problem too.
You know, as I traveled, and I know you see as well, I was out in LA and you were, and being in Vegas, being in DC, being across this country, I've seen poverty unlike I've ever seen in my life. I've seen more people living on the streets. In fact, the shooting that took place out in LA, I was right in that same area, or at least close to, last week. And, you know, what I saw out in LA was these off the highways, just, it looked like third world country. And I don't know if people are paying attention. You travel the world with your family. How scary is that to you when you start seeing our American, you know, our scene no longer is the dream? It's like a place that people come in, this depressed place. Your thoughts on the homelessness with there?
It is ridiculous. It's heartbreaking, and it should be. We are the land of the free, not the land of the freeloaders. And people are trying to turn this into a Pollyanna Sound of Music style event, and it's really not. It's really this simple, guys. There was a lot you saw when we were busing migrants to Kamala and to these sanctuary cities, and everybody's screaming. They were screaming, oh my gosh, they bust these migrants in t-shirts. It was cold outside. You're right. But let me tell you what they didn't show you on the news is the fact that they crawled over and stepped over American veterans and homeless on the streets, freezing to death, in order to bust these people who had just crossed our border illegally up to wherever they have asked to go on taxpayer dime. That's what you don't see, is these populations are exploding because the resources that should be available, emergency resources that should be available for our homeless and people who have fallen on tough times, people who've been affected by the lockdowns and the pandemic and the crippling economy, can't get the resources. There's a point system. There's a credit system. Americans can't get it, but yet illegals get to the front of the line. They get the money, the resources, no question asked, and then the court of public opinion and the liberal media want to sing kumbaya and say, well, you know, all Republicans are terrible for not welcoming 8 million people, you know, into their cities to pay, you know, to receive benefits from a system they did not pay into.
You know, it gets how common sense doesn't prevail, right? We know common sense doesn't seem to work in the world today. But let me shift the gears, because we're covering a lot of topics. We haven't caught up with you in a while. And I know you have an opinion on so many things, but this recent activity with Nancy Pelosi and Paul Pelosi, the videotape is going to be released, the footage, and you're smirking. So I'm getting ready. What's your thoughts on this case? Because this one is interesting. It could get really crazy fast.
Oh, I really love it, because we know that the left loves, and Pelosi, they love to gaslight. They love to have you look up at the sky and say, it's not really blue. You know, it's purple, and blue is racist, and all this other garbage. They've gotten really proficient at trying to tell you you don't see what you can actually see with your own eyes. You can see that gas and all this stuff costs a lot of money, but you're supposed to don't believe what you're seeing. Don't believe your wallet. Don't your bank account. Believe what we tell you. Don't put your faith in God. Put your faith in the government. And it doesn't work. So what I'm loving about this is the video. This should be what we had for January 6th, everything else. When the video is available, that should be out. But how they are intentionally spinning this, how they even think they have a universe that they can blame this on Republicans. The bottom line is, how did this man, whether, he wasn't actually in his underwear. Okay, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt. It wasn't his underwear. He was in boxers and a shirt. Who cares? The point is, how did he get through Secret Service level protection to get into that mansion? And then we've got the initial accounts of Paul Pelosi saying he was a friend, somebody he knew, which would make more sense than he got through 6 layers of security in his underwear, from somebody who's supposed to be third in line for the presidency. So now we can see it, and they're already spinning it. They're already, saying, it's Republicans' fault. It's not Republicans' fault. It's Pelosi's fault, because they're so used to covering their own crap. They're so busy gaslighting. Okay. And all of them are just full of it. That's what they're doing. So let's see it. Let's see the unscrub where we think that Republicans are going to alter that video. How exactly would we do that? That's your video. How exactly are we going to do that? I think what you're going to see, Kevin, is this guy that they are trying to, lay all of this on his feet is going to talk and squeal and fold like a cheap lawn chair. So we're about to get the truth, because it doesn't seem like this guy is ready to go down for Paul Pelosi. We're going to get it all.
Well, I will say this is interesting, and the fact that corporate media fell right in line once again with the Pelosi. I mean, the obvious was this is very odd right from the beginning. Actually, yes. There was a news reporter that actually that was well-known, famous, who was removed from his position because I come out and speak, and this is all going to unfold in front of our eyes. Listen, right now, Georgia, currently, I don't know if you heard, but Kemp has now activated 1,000 National Guard members for this emergency. He fears an anti-cop violence in Atlanta this weekend will cause concern enough to actually activate these 1,000 troops. We haven't seen a lot of this over the last few years, or at least a year and a half. Do you think it's now time for that distraction to become part of America again, getting into the 2024?
Oh, absolutely. So, we have a saying here in Texas is that when things go wrong at the rodeo, you send in the clowns. And we are seeing clowns everywhere. So this is what it is. This is a symptom of a couple of things, Kevin. It's a symptom, one, first of all, of their lawlessness and their soft on crime policies of bailing out all these same, terrorists who looted and burned and maimed and assaulted and killed people during the riots over the summer. They let all these people out, bailed them out, gave them the victim card, the racist card, and sent them on their way. And now we're seeing the same resurgence. But what's changed? What's different? The first time it was to get Trump out. It was to make Trump look bad. What is the play this time? The play this time is they're ready for Biden to go. He was only a tool to get out Trump. And now he has outlived his usefulness, and they are hanging him out to dry. So now all the arms are going to rally against him so that they can install another person that they want to install in this. So that's what you're basically seeing is they've known all of this stuff about the classified documents. They had it months ago. They could have released it. So people who didn't have access, security access, were moving documents from somebody else who didn't have a clearance and authority to be handling those. And then all the way, that's all we've heard. So that's what you're seeing right now is you're seeing that they're removing the protections they've been giving for Biden, all this time. And now they're going to, the puppet masters are ready for their new puppet.
And I concur with you. You might have heard me say it. I'm just going to, agree 100%. Mark knows I'm going out to Vegas in a couple of weeks for another meeting. And I'm going to go bet that Michelle Obama, A, is going to be the 2024 candidate for the Democrats. And B, more importantly, it should be reversed, actually, A and B. But A, it should be Joe Biden's removed is the 25th Amendment is enacted. Kamala Harris has cut a deal. She'll be put into Secretary of State when Michelle runs for president because she can't win as president. We know that. But they'll give her asterisk 30, the 47th president. She'll get an asterisk. She'll get her name in the book. She'll be a year plus. And I agree with you. I think we're on the same page with this one, aren't we?
Yes, we are on the same page. So it's just people watching out of watching to do this. This is always the plan. People are going under the assumption that Democrats don't know. Well, they don't know they know he's mentally impaired. That they've always known. So there's a difference between not knowing and lying. And people on both sides need to do that. Accountability. And I've always stressed that it is important to return the integrity. That's including, getting rid of Santos, who's in there. I mean, I don't think that he's telling the truth about the fact that he's breathing actual air. Everything that's come out of that man's mouth is a lie. So why is he being protected? Why is he being kept there? Why is he being shielded? It's no different. The truth is the truth, no matter what side you're on. So we're wanting accountability in politics, period. I, of course, am on the right, but, this problem, goes across both sides. So we got to get this right.
Listen, you ran for office, and I want to respect your time because I know you have a busy schedule. You ran for Congress. You got engaged into this process. You're not done with your future. We can talk about that when the decisions are made. But your experience in running for office here in America, you've talked about it. Just kind of summarize. When you look back on it, 30 seconds, what was it like to run for office in Texas for Congress?
It was fulfilling, Kevin, just because my parents fought for this country and bled for this country. Both my parents are retired Air Force colonels, and I respected their sacrifice. I never really saw this as my path, but when God calls, we answer. And so I stepped up to do it. And what was profound is how amazing the constituents are, how amazing the people are. They just have had the wool pulled over for so long. They don't know what's up or down anymore. And I was grateful to be able to have that opportunity, but it is dirtier than anyone could ever imagine. The biggest thing is not even realizing that most of the attacks, most of the sabotage, most of the things that I and a lot of the other grassroots dealt with came from our own party. It was, you have the ones that'll smile in your face and say, we need change, who will be behind the scenes using their money and influence to torpedo people like me, come after their family. I mean, it's unreal, horrific and unreal how, they're working against the interest and people cannot see what they're doing. So we have to, the part of our campaign, you, me, Kevin, and a lot of the other ones are getting people to open their eyes and stop just rubber stamping. They have an R behind their name. That's good enough. It's not good enough because this is where the danger is. We don't have to, we know what's the left is a known quantity. We know that. It's the people on the right who worship with us, pray with us, say they support us, who are tearing us apart from the inside. That's what's doing the majority of the damage. The ones that really want to damage it is the ones that want control. We know greed, control, term limits right now. And yes. I want to just kind of go into it because Kevin McCarthy, we all had our opinion of him, but he's here now. Yes. And, one of the things I think that Democrats, you and I often agree on is Democrats rally around themselves. At the end of the day, they all fought about Nancy Pelosi the last time she got elected. She wasn't the one. The progressives wanted somebody. But now Kevin McCarthy's here. Is term limits the one thing, or what is the big thing to you? I like term limits. What's your thing with this kind? Of course, no one's going to sign it. Joe Biden's not going to sign it. But the point is, get it out there, exposed in committees. What would be that one thing you want to see happen? Well, the one thing I want to also remind people is that, this is another round of political theater just because it happens to be on our side. This is what I warned people about the red wave. It doesn't do any good to take back the House if you don't clean it first. So Kevin McCarthy is here. All indications are good so far, but, Kevin McCarthy knew, people are like, well, we have him hogtied. You really don't. He knew that everything that he puts up is going to be, torn down by the upper chamber and vetoed by Biden. So he's got a year of a pass pretty much of going, hey, I put it up, sorry, it's not going, but we're still going to encourage it because it's still good that at least he's doing that. The important thing to remember is that, the Democrats lock and step. They got behind Jeffries, and they will do that with everything. But I feel like his priority should have been to get the J6ers out. Okay, we have people who are being detained, who are being tortured, who are being mistreated, who have been, incarcerated for years, okay, in horrible conditions, who, most of which are looking at trespassing charges. So we needed to make that the priority of getting people who fought for our freedom. We have patriots that are right now in the gulag. We have got to get them out. That should be the priority, is standing up for us as a party. So that's where we want to go. The IRS agents, that's just going to get torn down by Biden and some of the others, but the procedural things are good. The having people vote in person, getting rid of the proxy voting and having them do their job. Now the next thing will be, do not raise the debt ceiling, make Congress balance the budget, make them do their job. Stop letting them scare you with, the government's, let the government shut it down. But when's
the last time we had a balanced budget in America? Do you know? Because I don't think there's Mark's going to look it up, our producer. The last time we had a balanced budget in America.
I can't even remember, but that's, to me, it's a fundamental job. If you look at the job that they're supposed to do, is protect American citizens, uphold the laws. So that means the border, protect American citizens. That means balance the budget and stop kicking up this debt ceiling, stop kicking up all these entitlements and freebies. We're going to have to make some tough choices. We can't give money to everybody. We can't poke holes in the life vest and then hand it to people. We have got to, do our fundamental job as legislators is to balance the budget, secure the border, okay, and make legislation that works. But we've got all this Sheila Jackson Lee in there saying, we want legislation, hate legislation. Has she actually read the Constitution or the First Amendment? Congress shall make no law, okay, abridging the freedom, of speech and of other people. I mean, this has gotten to insane levels. So make Congress do the job they are elected to do. Make Senate do the job they are elected to do. They are supposed to be prosecuting people for malfeasance. I'm tired of these investigations that spend millions of dollars and they waste time and they get nothing done. When are people going to start being held accountable? When are we going to start seeing justice, okay, employed by our Supreme Court and them start taking on the tough challenges? That's what they were elected for. That's what you got a lifetime election for, was to handle, not keep kicking the can down the road. So it's time for all of them. All eyes are on the House. Senate, do your job. House, do your job. President Biden, go take a nap.
1997 was the last time we had a balanced budget. 1997. I was working in corrections and raising kids. Raven Harrison from Texas, your show again, and places where people can follow you, please.
Well, our podcast is Raven's Radar. You can find that on social media. You can go to our website for information on the podcast, the book, and where we're going to be touring and getting it done. That's ravenharrison.com, or you can find me on social media as Raven the Conservative Warrior.
There it is. Raven, thank you so much for coming on. I definitely owe you a call. We need to catch up because we still have a date at Texas and the border still yet to determine. I know.
And we have news on that, so I'll be talking to you about that later today.
Awesome. I need some great news. It's been a great week. Thank you so much, Raven. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you in a little bit. Back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show, Joe Visconti.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition at theepochtimes.com and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. Read the difference on all your devices. We'd love to have you on board.
Trump was the vaccine America needed. He exposed the deep state and fought back against the woke maniacs destroying everything Americans revered. They attacked George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They took over the NFL, the FBI, and the NBA. Trump stood alone against the Leviathan longing to destroy the United States from within. A.J. Rice, author and president of Publius PR, takes on this Leviathan in his new book, The Woking Dead: How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. He understood why America needed Trump even before it was in vogue. Rice is the ultimate DC media insider who has produced or promoted Laura Ingraham, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Alan Dershowitz, Peter Navarro, Victor Davis Hanson, and many more. Many of Trump's closest advisors have sought out A.J. Rice's media advice. Rice has fought behind the scenes for years in ways you saw and heard but never understood until now. Hilarious, biting, hard-hitting. Available on Amazon.com. Stop what you're doing right now and pick up a copy of The Woking Dead.
And welcome back right here on this Friday live edition. It is about 15 more minutes till we end this Friday live show. Raven Harrison, providing as she always does, turning it on from Texas. Go and check out Raven Harrison, Raven's Radar, and so much more. Of course, when you get an opportunity to meet people like Raven and some of the other folks across the country, of course, had Norm Pattis on from Washington, D.C. earlier, talking about the case with Mr. Biggs that he's down there currently battling with the J6 court cases that are taking place. But Raven, Norm, and then there's a guy out of Connecticut that we love to have come on here. There's no better way of finishing. We got to get our own intro song right here because this guy delivers every time. And if you're not watching Joe Visconti on Twitter, you're not watching anything. It's like this guy next to Elon Musk is making the biggest difference on Twitter. Let's welcome him to the show. Joe, what's going on, brother?
Hey, how are you?
It's been a while, my brother. How are you, man?
Listen, my dog really ate my charger. I had to glue it and braid it.
Oh, that's hilarious. I mean, I haven't heard that excuse since the second grade, but you got it.
He did, but it was about a year ago. But because she was a puppy, but evidently it just fell apart. I'm like, no. I'm trying to get the show up. I'm trying to reboot the damn thing. I'm like, oh my god.
But you're looking good now. You got the hat on. But I talk about your Twitters, and let's get right into it, Joe. You have a comment.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised I don't get knocked off of Twitter. Some of the stuff I say.
Well, he's already committed. He's not knocking you out. This is a platform.
I've been doing it anyway. I guess I don't come up on their algorithms. I don't have enough followers. I don't know what the hell it is. I call it Al Gore rhythm.
Of course, Al Gore created the internet. That's why you're saying.
Right.
So what's the biggest issues right now, Joe? You cover a lot of topics. You run for office in Connecticut.
Today's a big issue. They're going to vote for the RNC chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel. She's going to win in a landslide because of the McCain holdovers, the Bush holdovers, and the Romney people. She's Romney's niece, and contrary to everything that's going on, it's the same old with the Republicans. Listen, I'll say it again to all those out there listening that say, "Well, leave the Republican Party." I've been doing this for 20 years. No. Yeah, I got an old saying. I'm Republican. And so here's the saying for everyone listening. Just because my brother may be an a-hole doesn't mean I'm changing my last name. Okay?
Yeah.
It's our party. Just because they're sellouts and whatever does not mean you abandon a brand because that's all you got is that brand. Right. This is it. You've got to have a major brand, like it or not. But the platform is great. It's just that the Republicans don't live up to it. But I think this new Congress, I got to say it, is Jim Jordan is a lot of stuff coming. I think we're going to see the karmic balancing of what we've seen for 6-7 years happening to not just Trump, but the conservatives. You're going to see, and it's already begun, this whole layout, the cosmos, the astrological alignment is going to, it has to, cause and effect. It's called cause and effect. So don't give up hope over there at home. You see in Connecticut, this is one of the biggest things for me. I open carry guns, and Lamont wants to remove, and he's going to remove open carry in Connecticut. And he's nibbling at the Constitution more and more. And so that's all they've got. They've got to keep trying to take your guns, turn your kids, if not gay, tranny, or just twist them so they don't know what gender they are. And my big thing is, what's next? More of it? More of taking your children and grooming them, more of taking your Second Amendment, more. I mean, it's all they can do right now because there are only two steps to the pit: bestiality and cannibalism. That's it. After pedophilia, that's what you got. Incest is, whatever you want to call that, but this is where think about it. The pit. There's only two more steps to the pit.
Well, I'm gonna I think there's not much we disagree on. I think the one thing you did mention earlier in your statement was I obviously left the Republican Party here in Connecticut. Not that I need to defend myself, but I want to say I believe you're right. I wish I had a better choice in Connecticut. I will say the weakness here is Ben Proto, and I want to ask you. I've been away for a while. Ben Proto has been in some hot water here as the chair in Connecticut. What's going on with that case or that situation?
Well, just for the record, Ben and I hate each other's guts. We always have. And during the Trump campaign, when he became the chairman of the campaign for Trump, because Trump always picks lawyers, got to have a lawyer as a campaign manager. So he picked that. We were forced to work together, signed. We had to meet one day in New Haven, and we looked at each other, opened the trunks of our cars, flipped some signs over, and whatever. But we keep that. Listen, you got to. Beyond that, I keep that objective. It's for whatever reason, we don't like each other from past lives or who knows what. But that doesn't mean we don't work together. I worked with him at the headquarters gathering things and fundraising before 2022, before the midterms. I was down there this summer. and giving him names, trying to raise money for Leora, for everybody. We're at the point right now where even all the conservatives know that rhinos and people with bags of money that want to run for office that are not prepared, that's going to continue to happen. The Connecticut Republican Party will be sold to the next bag, a woman or man or tranny, with a bag of cash that comes in to buy this U.S. Senate race or to buy the next governor's race. And that's the way it rolls. And it's always going to roll that way. They have sold out America, and whether it was Ben or Jay Romano or even my buddy Jerry Labriola, the thing is, they can't stand for their own party platform. They can't stand for what they write in writing that they are.
Can a third party win? Can a third party win, say, for Senate against Murphy? Could someone get into office right now and win?
The best thing that could happen is, I think, that all your small towns where the Democrats don't even have seats, we don't have, the Republicans have no seats. Libertarians tried it before. They were impudent in their attempts. There's a few good guys at the
impotent.
top.
You're saying they're impotent? Is that what you said?
Yeah, impotent at the top. Well, as a body, not as a head, as good people. Don't get me wrong. It's just they have no legs. There's no will. Your legs are your will to gather signatures, to organize, and you can't just do one hit wonder. You need a bunch of them. You need a good 12 candidates that stick together, libertarian or independent. You saw that guy just took a job for Lamont. It was a complete sellout on Bob, but Bob screwed that up with Bill Evans. Bill Evans got paid. Love him. We've known each other forever. Dropped the ball. You couldn't get another 50 people out. Are you kidding me? So Bob lost that, and then the guy who took it over just got a job in the Lamont administration. Payday. That's what it said on Cap Report. Payday. That was the headline. Payday. So what good is your third parties? If they're really good, the Democrats will seduce them. And
that's so true.
It's so true. So the bottom line is, stick with your party platform. And but in Connecticut, what we have here is we have a place that's between New York and Boston, and you still can make national news and hit national issues. Lots of bad stuff happens here. Project Veritas down in Greenwich, and you've got Sandy Hook, and there's so much stuff that happens over here. But the Democrats own everything. They just completely own everything. And as far as Ben Proto, whether he runs, I don't know. Matt O'Brien my buddy may run against him. I haven't talked to him, but he may. But the reality is, I call him, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. I call the chairman, the chairman and the 72 thieves. That's what they are. They all line up behind whoever. It's the state part, central part, and some good guys in it, friends of mine. But majority, always state central. Those little boards of directors, 72 of them, are complete sellouts, and half of them have their own private businesses that grab the candidates that they vote for. They get them in a convention, they vote for them, and they go to work for them. It is so. Stop looking at Democrats. The Republicans are so corrupt in Connecticut, totally corrupt. I'm sorry, it's always
across the country. Across the country, there's lots of
a really great 20 years, 15 years of this corruption, sellout rhinos. We got a lot of information that we can keep slamming in their faces. Prove to us you ain't what you were or everybody was yesterday. And so as far as Connecticut goes, it'll be the same old, put a target on Ben's back politically and take him out or not take him out. He'll get it. If Rhoda gets in today, Proto will be in. If he wants it, he'll be in again in May, and the beat goes on.
The beat goes on. The beat goes on. But Joe, what's the beat for you in 2023? What is the big?
Well, you see the Trump stuff. I came out pretty hard in the Hartford Courant on right after Thanksgiving. They did a big piece on Trump.
Yep,
I was that guy, and against McKinney and whoever the hell, then Vin Candelora, whoever the hell they put up as a bunch of rhinos. And I said it. We're going to take DeSantis. I love him, but we're going to take his head off. It isn't his time. And sure enough, look at the last poll yesterday. Trump's at 59% among the Republicans, and he was a really great poll a couple days ago. He was 49 or something. So he's moving right up to 60, 70%. And because everything that they did to him, we see it now. Well, what are you supposed to do? I still hate him. Of course he was mean tweeting. They were spying on him. They were breaking laws. They were doing coups against him. Of course he mean tweet. You wouldn't mean tweet? And really, that's the whole thing. Forgive him for being angry that the country was being stolen by our intelligence communities and law enforcement and political media and academia and Wall Street. Everybody was in on it. And so now Trump looks good because he wasn't wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to forgive him for being upset a little bit. No, you put all your money in your life and your family's going down the tubes and they're taking everybody out in your business and they're destroying your business like they're coming after Elon now. And you don't want him to fire back. Kiss my royal, this is America. This is John Wayne, baby. We come out and we hit. And he always hits after they hit him. He never fires first. Trump never fires first. So anyway,
that is a very good point. And I think everything you're hitting on, Joe, makes sense to me. But I want to ask you, to those people that came out and were anti, they were originally Trump, and then they were like Themis Claridis, for example, here in Connecticut, somebody like that. How does that person come back and support Trump in the 2024 election?
She's history. Listen, we're taking the garbage. One of the reasons I exist in the political realm in Connecticut is to keep the garbage out where the trash is. You don't bring the trash inside the restaurant. The trash goes out the back door. I'm here to make sure the political trash goes back out the back door. Everybody who sold out, everybody who did what they did to us, I walk in a room, boom, they got to go out the door. I'm a guy in a shirt sometimes, but somebody's got to do that job to remind everyone that, hey, you sold us out. I'll never forget when Trump was here in town, a lot of people turned on him in 2016. He came to Sacred Heart in Fairfield, and I was there working with the campaign and the media, letting everybody in. And half the people that wanted to have a photo with him were beating his ass up for 3 months. And so they had to look at my face. I go, wait a second, you were with Trump? I walked in a room. I felt like a priest or the Pope. I knew everybody's sins after confession.
Well, you know what? If there's a priest I want to talk to, it's going to be you, Joe Visconti. Where can people find you, my brother? Where can they check you out and listen to what you got to say?
Facebook. I'll be hitting it hard on Facebook Live. I've been in jail for 60 days because a friend of mine put something funny. It was a sexy thing. She's like, hey, Heidi Nixon, a good friend of Facebook. You should follow her. She put something up like sex in the world and love, something like that. And I'm like, it's so crazy and so wild. And I wrote as a comment, wild sex for $500, Alex Trebek. I got put in jail for that.
Oh,
Jeopardy. It was a Jeopardy quote. It's like, okay. So I'll be doing a lot of live, and the Trump train is coming again, and so.
Maybe you and I should do a live walk through the city of Hartford together one day. And these beautiful.
You should. I got a building in Hartford where in a bodega where a lot of my construction stuff is stored.
Mark, can you work on that? Can you set that up with Joe? Mark, pick a date and we'll do it.
Mather Street. We're going right to Mather Street. Where everyone gets shot and killed. We're going to Mather Street.
Love it. Let's go there and go check it out. Joe Visconti, thank you for coming on. Back in a moment, we'll close out the Kevin Allen Show live edition Friday. Thanks, Joe. Welcome back. Get a ball of fire with Joe Visconti each time he comes on. He's ready to rock and roll. Good show. Really wish we had Chad on. We'll figure out what I'm sure it's on our end. No worries. Going to be great to have his story on here. We'll figure it all out with Mark, the producer. I know he's going back and forth, and when he gets the information, we'll make sure we note and post it out there so you'll be able to watch that interview. I thought Norm Pattis was pretty interesting this morning, talking about what's happening in the J6 as much as he can allude to. Of course, talking also about his discipline from the judge here in the Alex Jones case in Connecticut, and Norm Pattis being a contributor. I know Norm just texted me something. I got to get back to him on another topic, so we haven't caught up. It's almost like catch-up day here Friday, Mark. I haven't talked to Joe. I haven't talked to you. I haven't talked to Raven or everybody. We've been on the road, but it's all been part of what this journey's already been predetermined for us, not by us, but for us. And, I told Mark that I wanted to start in January, but I think in February, the beginning of every show, we really need to give thanks to why we're here. And you will hear me speak more and more about it, that I thank God for my opportunity to be living and to be here and to be serving. And I think the mission I've been given is to just get people together for a conversation. So Joe Visconti right there and Norm and Raven and different people. And as we grow this cross the country thing that we're trying to do, conversation's going to grow. They're going to get bigger. And as we do that, we just want to stay grounded with you. So we make sure we're staying as, the conversations always might have a bigger national feel, but it's always going to be about how we affect local. And that's, Joe talked about that right there. This upcoming election in 2023, locally in municipalities across Connecticut and across the country are going to be big races. Who you put into your secretary, well, the Secretary of State being at the state level, but who puts into your different positions in the clerk's office, your different positions, first selectmen and mayors and women who first select women who will be serving boards of finance. But folks, boards of education. The final stand against this overreaching sexualization of our young children in America. It stops and it begins with the Board of Educations. These are the people that you give the trust to, the confidence in, to go and represent your voice and to make sure that they're doing in your community what your community expects them to do. And it should be simply defend the children. Folks, we're going to commit and turn that up just a little bit, Mark, going into 2023. February 1st, you'll hear more announcements about our travels, booking some speaking appointments where we'll be going out and speaking at many engagements. All that and more on the Kevin Allen Show. I had a great show. Hope you guys did too. Talk to you on Monday.